My name's Daysia. I just turned 18 last month. And I basically started doing early college because I decided that I wanted a different environment for my learning. I found that I was stuck in kind of like this cookie cutter education scenario where I was forced to do this, this, and this to graduate. And I was introduced to early college by one of my friends. So I decided to try it out, and I found that I really, really liked it. So far, I have a ton of transferable credits, which is saving me tons and tons of money too.
Friends, you said you had a friend introduce you to the idea of early college. Tell us about who that person is, not their name, but like, what did they say to you that made you feel comfortable to look into it?
So my friend and her mom were looking into different options for her education because we were kind of feeling the same, that the typical high school environment wasn't really for us. So she looked into charter schools and private schools, and we eventually found the early college program. And so we both just gave it a try.
Okay. You spoke a little bit about, being dissatisfied with the high school, kind of traditional high school learning environment. I wonder if you can speak to that a little more specifically, like what didn't really work very well for you in that environment?
Well, in my personal environment, there was a lot of racial issues, which I wasn't really comfortable with. And it was also just like, it got to the point where teachers were kind of pushing kids along instead of actually focusing on learning. So in that environment, I could really tell you nothing about what I learned there. So it just got to the point where I was just kind of done and I wanted to look for something new.
How old were you when you made the switch to Logos?
I was 16.
16, okay. And how did you feel once you made that switch? How did you find the learning environment, the social environment? How was that different for you?
For me, it was so much better. It was a relief. So going to a community college, it was much more diverse for me. And there are people from so many different backgrounds and so many different ages that have different life stories. And it was just so cool to meet new people.
Yeah. Talk about what it's like to be sitting next to a bunch of mixed age, kind of diverse people in a classroom. What happens?
At first, I'll admit it was a little bit weird because I was used to high school, but you get used to it super, super fast. They're there to learn just like you are. So it's super cool to just be in a classroom with a whole bunch of humans.
In community college, did you find any cliques or any kind of weird social stuff?
Not at all.
Yeah.
Everyone was super, super nice and welcoming when I was in my first class, and everyone's just there to learn, and it's really cool.
It's a big difference between being in a class with everybody who wants to learn versus high school. Like, what % of the students in your high school classes wanted to be there to learn? Can you take a guess?
Not very many. I would say in my regular classes, about 40% actually wanted to be there, and in like honors, maybe like 60.
Okay. So that's a mediocre half.
Yeah. So I found that in high school, the teachers were just kind of teaching what they were supposed to. There wasn't really one-on-one teaching at all from what I found. But when I got to community college, it's a one-on-one experience. You're allowed to ask questions if you need to. There are times where you can see the teacher individually, and that helps with a lot of classes. I just feel like community college is a better learning experience overall.
Okay. What do you think a student in high school is experiencing when they're under stress? Maybe they're trying to fit into a clique and they're not getting it, or maybe they're being bullied. Maybe they feel like what they're doing is just like wasting their time, and so they're not invested. But a brain that's actively feeling traumatized in high school from social interactions. Have you thought about how that brain might be adapted to learn or not to learn while in the classroom in that environment?
Well, from personal experience, from suffering from not fitting in into cliques and not being that popular. I found that in high school, I was much more depressed and anxious. And so when I would walk down the halls, I'd just keep my eyes on the ground and keep walking. But now that I'm in a much better environment suited for me, I don't really have those issues anymore. I find myself talking to new people when I couldn't before.
There's a gentleman named Dan Pink who wrote a book called Drive, speaking about motivation. And he thinks that there's three components of what somebody makes them motivated or have drive. One is autonomy, so independence. And purpose is another one. And then kind of mastery is the third. But let's speak about autonomy and independence, because when you go to community college, you're more independent than you are in high school. Do you think that affected your motivation as well?
I think so, because when you're in high school, you kind of do things that your friends want to do. I feel like there's not much independence there. But when you're in a classroom alone and walking on campus, I feel like you're more motivated to do things on your own. And so, yeah.
Okay. Yes. Thank you for that. And speaking to the second component of motivation or drive, it's purpose. So when you're in the traditional high school environment versus in community college doing early college, do you feel like you have more purpose in the community college setting?
Yes, because I know that the credits I'm working towards are going towards my future job or what I want to do. And in high school, it kind of feels like you're just dragging along, waiting to graduate. It doesn't really feel like there's a purpose there.
I'm curious about if you could speak to if you had any fears or concerns about doing early college. What were they?
At first, it was the social aspect. I thought that I wouldn't have any friends, or if I did have friends, they would be much, much older than me, when that wasn't the case at all. I've actually met a lot of people my age going through early college, and I've also met a few older people that we've gotten along pretty well. So
nice. We do learn things in school that are unrelated to academics that might stay with us a lot longer. I'm wondering about, for you being in a classroom with mixed age people, are you learning anything specifically from these people that you wouldn't maybe necessarily hang out with about life or education, or what are you learning from these people that have all this life experience? Anything?
I've learned a lot from the people around me. So a lot of the people in my classes are moms or dads with children, and they're taking classes after work, and they're just trying to get in these credits in order to better themselves as people. And I find that drive really inspiring. I'm thankful that I can get it done earlier, because I know having a child would probably be really difficult. But yeah.
Well, I guess my last kind of question, Daysia, would just be if you were hanging out with some early college or some teens that were thinking about doing early college, or their parents, what would you tell them about your experience, and what would you tell them about anything with early college that might ease their mind and encourage them to do it?
I would just say go for it. I mean, you don't know what you're going to experience unless you experience it, and all of your fears won't automatically come true. So, so far from my experience, I've had a really, really good time, and I would recommend it to anyone. I've had such a good experience.
Okay.